Well, first of all, again, kind of like I asked Nikki, I don't know how much you guys look at the table, but first versus third, you guys have the chance to jump to the top. How do you guys, how much more does it motivate you knowing that you have that carrot dangled in front of you if you win?
Personally, I don't really look at the table too much throughout the year. I think, sometimes players can get into their heads about that. I like to look at every game as if it's my last game, and, I know a lot of the guys do the same. We go into every game with that championship mentality. Every game is our last. Every game is the most important game. There's no more important game than the one right in front of us. And so I think all of us have that mentality 24/7. Every training session we step on the field, it's life or death pretty much for us. We're fighting for spots, we're fighting for places, we're fighting to push each other so that when game time comes, we're ready. So I think, you know, personally, I don't look at it too much. I know it is going to be an external motivator for them and for us, but I think if we just go into this game as we've been going into these games, I think we'll be fine. It's a top of the table clash, and we're motivated, they're motivated, so I'm looking forward to the energy that this game is going to bring.
Something that, at least for me, stood out about New Mexico, and something that Carlos and Nikki both mentioned, is they like to pass the ball around. They like to, average of 62% possession. For you as a more attacking player, do you feel maybe a little more extra responsibility to try and win that ball back, as soon as possible, like everyone else is going to be doing, but particularly because they like to pass it around, do you feel a little more responsibility to try and win it back this week?
I wouldn't say responsibility. I would say I feel excited for the opportunity. I like playing against possession-based teams. I think sometimes teams try to overplay, and as an attacker, that excites you. The further up the field you can win the ball, the more opportunities you're going to have, and the closer to the goal you're going to be. So, I think as an attacker, I'm excited. I think all the attackers on our team are excited. Our press has been looking good the past couple of games, and with the energy that we've been bringing, I think it poses a new opportunity for us going into this game. So, we're open to the challenge. We're excited, to see what they can do, and we're excited to go out there and, have that opportunity to win the ball high up the field and kind of convert some of those chances.
Like I asked Nikki, you guys have kind of struggled a bit scoring on the road over the last few months. I mean, really just the one goal in all competitions since the start of April. Is it just a matter of not finishing those chances? Because like last week, you got a few, and Andres, for example, just couldn't put them in the net. Is it really just as simple as now finishing them?
I think so, yeah. I think, watching last game, 13 shots, not that many on target, but I think we're getting into those areas, we're getting into those opportunities, and, we might just be missing that last little bit, but it'll come. Playing on the road is hard, anywhere, but especially in this league, the travel takes a toll on you, the new environments take a toll. So, scoring is the hardest thing to do in this game. That's why, there's extra pressure on attackers sometimes, there's extra pressure on teams. So it's hard to do at home, it's hard to do on the road. I think it's just about being calm in those moments that we do have. We're creating those chances, so it's not like we're struggling to, get in front of goal or struggling to find the opportunities. And I know I'm confident, and the team's confident that when we do get, more and more of those chances, as soon as a couple of them start to fall, it's going to be like a waterfall, and, it's going to be smooth sailing from there.
And also, you'll be playing in Albuquerque, high elevation. So how are you going to account for that? How do you prepare as a player for that elevation?
I don't know if there's much preparing you can do. I actually didn't know it was that high of altitude. I didn't know the elevation was that high.
Altitude, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know. So if it's anything like playing in Colorado, or if it's worse, then we'll deal with it. At the end of the day, it's you have to run, you have to put in that effort. It's going to be taxing on the lungs, it'll be taxing on the body, but so is any game. We play in the heat here, and we kind of use that to our advantage against teams. So I'm sure they're going to try and do the same, but we're fit, we're ready. If it's a mentality thing, then we'll lock in and we'll get past it.
And what's the vibe of the team going into this week, training wise? What are we hyping up for this Saturday?
The vibe's been unbelievable. I think we're building off two solid performances, building off the opportunities that we've created, looking to be more lethal in front of goal, just put those chances away. But overall, the energy in our press has been great. The energy in the build-out's been great. The communication from the staff to the players about what they're expecting, what we're expecting, everything has been top this week. So we're looking to just kind of continue this momentum that we've built on the past 2 weeks on, and really put together a good result this weekend.
And what is it from the back line? say, example, Richard like makes an incredible save, and then it just comes all the way forward. Like for you, like what does that vibe switch from all 11 pressing forward for y'all?
It's it's great. When you have every single player, making big plays from the keeper all the way to the striker, it does so much. From my point of view, sometimes you might be dog tired. You're sprinting, you're pressing. Things might not go your way. A lucky bounce for the other team might happen, and all of a sudden we need a big play from our keeper, or we need a big play from a center back, and those guys pull through for us time and time again. So it gives us further up the field that much more of a boost. Seeing our boys back there get the job done, just kind of makes us want to get the job done and support them, a little bit more. So, yeah, I think us scoring goals and them keeping goals out of the net just kind of keeps us going forward. It has a little bit of a balance to it. They get on us, we get on them, so it's got a nice little balance in training.